Hey there, Gary Wilkins, Southeast Regional Sales Manager, joined today with Sam from HiViz.
Hey, everybody. So nice to see you all here live on Facebook and all the other social platforms. It's great to be here.
Reached out to you guys and wanted to bring you into our little webinar series that we're doing here. We have been going out, we've recorded this entire series of video footage, and we wanted to bring in each individual light head manufacturer to have a good one-on-one conversation to actually figure out what it is that makes your light product different and how that actually plays so nicely with our lights.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great idea, and I'm really excited to be here.
So I wanted to consider you as the product expert and maybe a few tips and tricks for my hair so I can maybe style it up and look like you a little bit, because that's what
Yeah, well, I tell you what, though, with this whole coronavirus deal, we can't even get a haircut. So soon enough, you'll be looking just like me.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the goal there. I'm going to just need to know what color my tips need to be.
I can't give all my secrets up.
Well, good deal. So why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and where your company started at and how you got in this industry?
Yeah, definitely. So, I started off as a fireman in the middle of nowhere in a small town, North Carolina, little town called Lillington. It's the greatest place in the world. But I started off kind of in this business where I was refreshing flashlights. The old light boxes? I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Yeah.
They were super heavy, not very effective, and I came up with a little way to refresh an old light box, basically. Started the business about 10 years ago. And that was the extent of what we did at the time. But what I realized through working as a volunteer firefighter in the middle of nowhere was that there were $1 million fire trucks all over the United States that had all the latest tech in the world. And even in rural North Carolina or in New York City, the best tech in the world didn't always get applied appropriately. And I noticed some areas where lighting could be maybe further improved or tweaked or modified in a sense where you could get more light in the area where you were looking or where you were working. And realistically for me, I was a firefighter with a knack for engineering, not really an engineer and not really a professional firefighter by any means, but I did a good job of liaising between engineers and firefighters to come up with some tech that worked well. So we started with little flashlights. The business has now grown and we employ about 150 people globally in our kind of bigger team. And now we produce light fixtures from the ground up, really everything from small size fixtures to body mounted fixtures to aerial tip and tracking, obviously light tower fixtures like some of the stuff we're working with you guys on. And over the last 10 years, we've developed a business that specializes in more light for the same cost with a better warranty. And that's, from the firefighter's perspective, the ultimate uptime and the ultimate reliability and the maximum light where it matters were always the things that for me as a business person were always the most important things that I could offer our customers, because me as a firefighter, those are the most important things I could ever ask for. So that's the very abridged background, but we're a lighting manufacturer. We specialize in steady burning white work lighting. As of today, we don't manufacture anything that's not a steady burning scene light. So obviously, people in the fire truck space know there's scene lights and warning lights. Our expertise is in thermal management and optical design. So it's all about getting the heat off of the LED out into the atmosphere and getting the light off of the LED onto the fire scene. It's not in all of the other areas of other types of lighting disciplines, but really for us, it's all about thermal management and optical control.
Sam, the way you speak about it is it's almost like a platform or a package, similar to the way something me and you know little to nothing about probably, but the hose and nozzle package as being one and the same and working together. Is that kind of similar to the way that you're saying light heads work? Is it's a complete package?
Yeah, so it is. Really, you look at our expertise. I didn't start off in a business where I knew a whole lot about lighting. We've hired people that are a lot smarter than I am, obviously, and I kind of use their expertise and skill set to stand on the shoulders of giants and create really good technology, I think. But ultimately, you can only be an expert in so many things. And so for the Firetech brand, we are experts in steady burning white work lighting. We're not experts in the payload elevators or the ladder truck or the whatever. We make the fixture really well. We understand the application so that then when a company like Command Light or like any fire truck manufacturer, or anybody that uses a lighting fixture needs a lighting expert, we can come in and fill the role of a payload specialist, a lighting specialist that then can bolt our lighting tech onto something where clearly you guys work in the payload elevation area and that's your expertise. Our expertise is, is the light fixture. Right.
So one of the questions we get asked so frequently is how many lumens of light does a fire department actually need?
That's a really good question. So it's actually interesting. When you break it down, the lighting science, if you haven't had a chance to watch, I've got a class called The Science of Effective Scene Lighting. If you go to our website, you can see it. But it's a class that talks about the way light goes from the source to the fire scene and the shapes of the beams and the profiles and what are lumens, what are lux. And at the very high level, this is not like super scientific, but basically lumens is the total volume of light measured at the source. There's a lot more science behind it, but if you break down to the most simple definition, that's what it is. So how much or how many lumens is enough light to do your job is actually kind of a trick question, because what's more important, there's two things. One is going to be, how much light is in the area where I'm working. If this light fixture was producing 1 million lumens at the source, but it was shining on a wall before it hit the fire scene would still be dark. And so in fire trucks, everyone spends their time, and in the fire marketing world, doing how many lumens is my light fixture. But lumens really is a difficult measurement of how effective a light is, because the lumens are stuck at the fire truck, and where we're working is measured in lux or foot candles. So there's a really cool class that we talk about called the Science of Effective Scene Lighting that really shows and explains that. But we get asked from firefighters all the time, okay, great. So how do I decide how big a light fixture? Because every light fixture is measured in lumens. What am I really looking for? And so, when you take and decompress that question and you kind of break it down into how do I effectively light a fire scene, which is probably what people are really trying to accomplish. It's more of the practical application versus the technical application is you want to have more light in the area where you're working than total darkness. And so anything is better than nothing. And when you look at the total number of lumens, or you look at lux, in NFPA 1901, at the back of a fire truck, in the 10-foot by 10-foot area around the back of a fire truck, there's a requirement to have, I think it's 30 lux or 3 foot candles in the 10 by 10 area. So that's the measurement of light on the target. So if you have a light fixture producing any number of lumens, but that can actually put 30 lux on target, that's generally acceptable as the amount of light necessary to do your job. The problem is that you can't spec a light fixture in lux, because what you're shining on changes, and lux is dependent on the relationship of the scene to the source where the light's being emitted from. And so kind of further stumbling down that road, okay, great, I'm a firefighter, I'm trying to choose how much light do I need on my light tower. It's far more important to have an even distribution of lighting around your fire scene than it is to have an extremely high intensity of lighting in any given area. And so when you kind of look at it from that respect, the total number of lumens isn't actually super critical when you look at, whether it's a light tower, or it's body mounted scene lights, or it's an aerial tip, or it's whatever. Total number of lumens is not as important as how effectively can I illuminate a broad area on a fire scene so that I don't go from an area of high intensity to an area of low intensity very frequently. So for instance, like if you pull up on a rescue truck and you put a light tower up in the air, that tower being up in the air allows you to have a broad volume of light that flows all out over the fire scene and spreads out as far and wide as it can. If you took and dialed the optics into a very tight spot and you put all of that light directly next to the fire truck, you'd be walking, and that was the only light source. As you walked through it, you would go from darkness to lightness back to darkness. And we know that the number of times that as you're on the fire scene, your eyes have to change from high intensity to low intensity, that's what causes stress and fatigue. And so as you look at lighting, it's really more important to think of the other qualifying aspects of the fixture. How well does it distribute the light onto the fire scene? What's the shape of the beam? If your whole fire scene was illuminated to say 10 lux versus only 1% of your fire scene being illuminated to 1,000 lux, you're really better off having the whole even distribution of lighting around the fire scene so that your eyes can adjust. It's a very long technical answer, but I think that it's a really tough question. When I'm trying to choose a light tower or a light for the side of my fire truck, how do I pick the right number of lumens? Don't so much worry about the number of lumens. Really look at your system as an ecosystem. How can I put an even distribution of lighting around the fire scene, which could include a combination of maybe you've got mutual aids that all have light towers. Well, then size your system to match what's comparable. So you don't have one that's super intense and a bunch that are low, or size your system so that you have an even package of lighting so that then as you're working around the fire scene, one light with a tripod at the back of the house and your light tower covering the whole front of the house and then your command vehicle on the other side of your generator light, you really kind of look at the fire scene as that, that whole ecosystem of lighting technologies helping firefighters do their jobs after dark.
Ecosystem or package, as we mentioned. So it is a complete package that you're building in the light world. So
yeah.
And that's the thing that people, I think, so often maybe overlook is the fact that it's not just picking a light to go on the side of the truck. It is a complete package.
Yeah, and what's interesting is when you look at lighting on a fire scene, one of the things that, it kind of goes back to your question of, okay, how many lumens do I need? Well, all of the right lumens in the wrong area can actually be too bright. And so we literally make some 100,000 lumen light fixtures. Measurement and go photometer, they're insane. They're like 1,000-watt LED fixtures. brighter than you could ever use if they were mounted on the side of a vehicle. Now, obviously, you guys are in the light tower business. We're in the light fixture business. We like to make lights go everywhere. But in some applications, if your goal is to reduce glare on the fire scene, the only way to reduce glare is to increase the elevation. And so when you look at that ecosystem of technologies, you know, one of the things that how many lumens is enough to do my job, that's one question. The other question is how much light's too much? And if all of your lighting is concentrated in one area on the side of the vehicle that's only 6 feet off the ground, it hits you right in the face. One of the things, you know, when we talk about why should I buy a light tower, and naturally us, we're a payload, you know, specialist. We make the thing, we make the light fixture. So how you pick it up in the air really doesn't actually matter to us. I know that every light tower manufacturer has their competitive advantages, but to us, our expertise is get that payload up in the air, because when you get the payload up in the air, you can distribute the light down onto the fire scene, which really helps to reduce glare. And once it's shining down, then there's really not a maximum number of lumens you can produce, because you're no longer combating that too bright effect where it's shining right at you, you know, from straight on.
It's very similar to the way the sun uses. The sun's more light than any LED that we could produce.
If you think about, I'm wearing a hat, you know, so I'm in a studio, but we've got a light in front of me that's shining down. And if you look at my eyes, the more this brim gets in front of me, now I'm in a shadow. If I look up, my eyes are now exposed. Same way this way. If the light is shining on top of my head, my eyes are in a shadow. As soon as I look out, they're not. So the higher the elevation of the fixture, the more it shines down, the more your eyes can be in a shadow, but the area where you're actually working can be in that intense light. And the whole name of the game in lighting is going to be more light on target than in your eyes, and then you can see to do your job. That's the trick.
But I think this video series has been phenomenal because people have learned so much from watching, and it begs the question of so much more that I want to learn from you is, you know, we offer a very unique feature with our full-bodied size light towers, both in our CL series, our night series, and our shadow series, with the backlighting capabilities where we can rotate that bottom row of light around 180 degrees to get light on the back side of the tower. And
yeah,
you mentioned several things that I keyed into there, and that was with optics and lenses and that entire package. And I think that's how I'm going to refer to it from here on out, is that entire package and how it plays together. How does rotating that light around affect the beam pattern and how it's going to function for you by doing that?
That's a really good question. And so in lighting, you know, when we started working with you guys, I mean, there was a really unique opportunity in the market in general to develop some technologies for light towers. And so when we look at our business, you know, we always try and specialize first in the application and then build a product to meet that need. So when you talk about a tower that can light in two different areas, one of the things that's unique about the way that we build fixtures for you guys is that the beam pattern that comes off of our fixtures is symmetrical. And so you have the same amount of light going in each direction. It's collimated in all directions in. So if you think about the shape, it's more like a short, fat traffic cone. It's like, you know, a cone of light, versus there are other styles of light fixtures which work really well in other areas of the fire truck, not on a light tower, like the body mounted scene lights, which shine light down and out. So when you look at building a fixture that goes up in the air and puts light, you know, in different areas, or could flip upside down and do that sort of thing, it's important that you have the optics in that fixture matched to the application where they're going to be used. So to circle back to your question of what happens when I flip a light fixture upside down, what's really unique, this is a fixture that we make for you guys. So this thing shines light the same direction up as it does down. Might not be perfect in every application. If this wouldn't be a great body mounted scene light because half the light would go above the fire scene. But when you put it up on a payload elevator and then you tilt that arm over the side of the vehicle, now the upper edge of that short, fat traffic cone shape of light goes straight out and the bottom goes down. And because it's symmetrical, as you tilt this fixture back, the same effect occurs regardless of whether it's right side up, upside down, left ways, right ways. And so really in the application of a light tower, having a symmetrical optic is really cool and really important because that puts more of the light from the source, which is measured in lumens, to the fire scene, which is measured in lux. And so when you kind of look at the application, not from a whose badge am I wearing or how do I sell more light fixtures, but how do I properly illuminate a fire scene? The firefighter in me says, pick a light that works the same way upside down as right side up, because when you have a tower that has that feature where you can be lighting it on the front of the fire scene, but maybe back here I'm working on repacking hose layer, I'm filling, you know, air bottles or whatever on the truck. Being able to move those lights in two different directions is really important. And if you have an efficient optic set that is designed for the environment where it's going to be upside down or right side up, then you can actually put the same light on target with less lumens at the source. So when you look at some of our fixtures, you'll see, like, could we make that fixture 100,000 lumens? Sure. Would it be helpful? Probably not. We can do the same with 10 to 15,000 lumens that the incorrect optics would have to compensate by having a much higher lumen number to produce, because we're doing it more efficiently, which is kind of a unique and different way of looking at the application. But we can draw less energy, we can produce less light at the source, but we can put more light in the area where it matters because our optics are directing it where it needs to go.
That's great to know that the products that we're offering that you're building in conjunction with us are built specific to the purpose of our light tower, so that they can be used both in the forward and the rear facing version.
Yeah.
But one thing that's come so frequently is the fact that we're seeing increase in DC light towers, and many people didn't even realize that DC light towers were available. So
Yeah.
that in the removal process of a generator off of a truck, you can still put a light tower on there.
Yeah.
But the question arises so frequently is, do you see a performance difference both in the longevity of the light, the brightness of the light, the overall functionality of the light in AC versus DC change?
So with an LED, LED stands for light emitting diode, and a diode is basically a one-way check valve for electrons. And so electricity only flows through the diode in one direction. And so when you look at a little bit of electrical theory, DC stands for direct current and AC stands for alternating current. And so the alternating current goes positive and then negative, and then positive and then negative. And so if you're looking at a diode that only operates when electricity is flowing through it in one direction, if you put alternating current directly to the diode, you would see it on then off, then on then off, then on then off. And so what occurs is anytime you're buying an LED fixture, because the LED by nature doesn't run on AC power, there are some very few exceptions, but by and large, they don't run on AC power, there has to be a device between the generator producing alternating current and the diode, which only produces useful light with direct current, to rectify that power, to flip the inverted negative voltage back to positive voltage and scrub it. So kind of a technical, answer, but every AC LED fixture, for the most part, is actually a DC LED circuit board that somewhere on board has a system to convert alternating current into direct current. And so while I can't speak to other manufacturers' fixtures, at least with the products that we manufacture, the circuit board is always operating with DC power. And so whether you put AC power through a rectifier into the DC circuit board or you put DC power directly into the circuit board, the performance of at least our fixtures is always going to be identical, whether it's DC or AC. And when you break down our circuit board layout, one of the reasons that we do it that way, where it's a DC circuit board with an AC, usually it's a switch mode power supply, which is the term, or a constant current driver. But you basically have two devices, a DC light fixture with an AC power supply or whatever you want to call it. They can be married together. You can have a circuit board that has all that circuitry on the same circuit board. But what happens in LED lighting, the two things that kill LED light fixtures are moisture and temperature. If it gets too hot, it's going to burn the components up and they'll fail. Or if it gets wet, of course, naturally you have problems. So when you have an AC power supply that generates heat, and you have a DC circuit board that also generates heat, when you marry them together and put an AC power supply on the circuit board, now you're competing for the real estate on the fixture to dissipate that heat into the atmosphere. And so you're generating more heat when you have to rectify that power. So all of that to say, with our fixtures, we always have that power supply separated electrically and physically from the circuit board, so that if there was a problem, we guarantee these things for the life of the truck, but if there was a problem with a fixture, you can replace a very low-cost module instead of having to replace a very high-cost fixture, where if we married our circuit board and our power supply together, you'd have to replace the whole fixture if there was a problem. And so to answer your question of what's the performance difference between AC and DC, it's the same light fixture, at least with our brand. I honestly don't know how other manufacturers do it. With a Firetech fixture, every DC fixture or every AC fixture is a DC fixture with the addition of this module to convert the power. And so really, it doesn't matter at all whether you have an AC electrical system or a DC electrical system. You can have the exact same performance out of that system. There are some things that are a little bit more efficient in the DC electrical system where we don't have the extra heat generated rectifying it. So naturally, more simplistic electronics, you get a little bit more efficient operation. And so when you're looking at a DC light fixture, technically the amount of overall wattage that the fixture consumes to produce the light that it produces might be a little bit less with a DC fixture, but overall, they're virtually identical.
Sam, you brought up a question there. It's kind of interesting to me. Is is heat dissipation, and it would only make sense to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is while the flush mount scene lighting is going to be able to dissipate heat, by placing it on a light tower, you're exposing it on all four sides. You're giving it airflow. Does that make it more of a reliable light fixture if you put it on a light tower, or is it very similar, or what? How do you get rid of that heat in both scenarios there?
That's a great question. So light tower lighting always has more airflow than surface mounted lighting, which is actually really great because that means that the light fixture theoretically should be able to dissipate more heat passively into the atmosphere off of the heat sink. And so there's a couple of factors that play into the temperature of the LED where it meets the circuit board at what's called the junction temperature being dissipated through the housing and into the atmosphere. In a light tower application, it's actually a really great application for lighting because you don't have, you're not covering the whole fixture. You're attaching it from a very small area, which allows the rest of the fixture to be exposed to that airflow. And then when you pick it up in the air and put it on, a pole or on an articulating arm or whatever, that light fixture is open to the atmospheric breeze and that sort of thing. So it's a great environment for a light fixture to dissipate heat passively. But the way that it works is naturally the LED touches the circuit board touches the substrate, which is the housing or the block behind it, which then touches the rest of the housing, which has fins, or this one, the whole housing is designed to be the heat sink, which then dissipates the heat in the atmosphere. And so it conducts heat all the way through those aluminum surfaces into the atmosphere. And the name of the game with thermal management is going to be sizing the amount of energy produced to the passive ability of that fixture to dissipate heat into the atmosphere, and then to have a check valve on it so that, say, this fixture, we know the surface area calculation of this fixture based on the application in the, on the tree up in the air where there's airflow across it. We know how much heat it can dissipate. It's somewhere in the 75 watts range. And so when you take this fixture, if we pumped 500 watts through this, it would overheat. So what we can do, there's a really unique set of circuits that are called thermal management circuits, which basically have a little sensor on them, which can sense how hot the circuit board is. And so if, for instance, we put a circuit board in this housing that the housing couldn't manage the temperature of, as it reached that operating temperature, which was preset in our firmware, where it says, hey, at whatever temperature I'm too hot, we can back the drivers off, which allow that fixture to have kind of a safety valve to ensure it never overheats. Now, any LED light fixture should always be designed so that it can passively dissipate the amount of heat that the circuit board generates. Otherwise, it's always in active thermal management mode, which is never good. But if you had an application where, like, we do a lot of work in mining, and in mining, the heat sinks get caked with dirt and mud and dust and all this trash and never get washed. So if you had an application like in mining where it's caked in dirt, or in fire, someone might throw a turnout jacket over it, or they might have, whatever, stuff on it, or maybe they put things on top of it in the dunnage area. If the fixture were to come on, that active thermal management is like a safety net. It says, hey, I'm recognizing that I'm not able to dissipate the heat. There's some other factor affecting my housing. And so it's really the safety valve that we build into every fixture, which allows for the fixture to manage its own thermal load secondary to the passive ability to dissipate the heat and actively control the amount of current being pushed to the circuit board, which then, of course, protects it in the long run. And so
very similar to like a pressure relief valve on a fire truck then.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, water flow, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but like water flow and lighting are almost like one and the same. If you think about pressure relief valve is that active thermal management. If you think about the temperature running away, if you have a fixture that gets too hot, the higher the temperature goes, the less reactive the chip becomes. And so just like friction loss in a fire hose, I mean, lumens, lux, and foot candles, friction loss, they all are the same thing. If you take the analogy of a fire truck and you say, I'm a fireman, I'm flowing, or firefighter, I'm flowing water, I'm flowing 250 gallons a minute, whatever the number is, could be arbitrary. That flow is like your volume of light. That's your lumens. If you look at where am I flowing the water, I'm putting it on a target. The amount of water hitting the seat of the fire is considered more like your lux or foot candles. That's light where it matters. So if we have a fixture that produces 10,000 lumens, but most of that light ends up directly at the seat of the fire, we're gonna put the fire out. But if we take 10,000 lumens or we take 250 gallons a minute and we float on the neighbor's house, we're not gonna put the house out if the house in front of us is on fire. So having all the right flow, all the right gallons per minute in the wrong area doesn't help. And with lighting, all the right lumens in the wrong area doesn't help. And so we use a very precise nozzle for our light, which is the optical collimator, to put that light where it matters. And when you break down the analogy of flow being equivalent to lumens and water at the seat of the fire being equivalent to lux, or water where it matters being equivalent to lux, you look at going up 50 sets of stairs with an 1 3/4 hand line. you're not going to have much flow at the top of the stairs, not going to have much pressure at the top of the stairs because you got all that friction loss. That's temperature in the circuit. If the circuit's super hot, there's a lot of friction in that circuit. It can't push the light through the LEDs and out into the air. It just generates a lot of heat. So your pump's working extra hard at the base. The only way to fix it is to either make a bigger hose or turn the pump up. You either make a bigger heat sink or you turn the pump up and you have less efficient fixtures. So water flow and lighting are like, I mean, they're freakishly similar. And if you're interested, I mean, that class we teach, the Science of Effective Steam Lighting, has some really cool videos where we actually show water flow and the light beam patterns. And it's,
I don't know that I've ever seen that, and I'm almost positive that me and you've never spoken that. I would have remembered your water flow analogy there because personally, I learned everything from analogies. I using the sun as the brightest LED we can possibly imagine, and how you drive west at night and that glare right in your face, and I remember stuff, and that's a really good way of thinking about this, and it just really drives home that fact that you've got so much more here than just saying, I want this and I want that and put it on that truck. Is we've got an entire system, and I know you've got available as well to you, is people to go out and help the fire departments work together to actually see what we have to offer. And that really brings up a great place, Sam. I'm going to share with you our new website that's launched so that people can see.
Oh, cool. You share it here?
Yeah, specifically to what you've got. Really cool. So, Sam, I assume you can see now this is Command Light's website. You can come on here and actually see individual manufacturers. We're on the Firetech page here. And this is going to give you information about Sam's lights and our light tower, cool. How that package works together. And
that's super cool.
Won't you take I haven't seen this yet. I'm going to give you permission to remote control this.
Oh, cool.
So you can actually scroll us through here and just take us through each one of your lights here. And I can talk about the products that we manufacture. I see there on the screen there, you've got the Night Series Slim. Our Helios light tower, which is what you've got actually there on your table there. So that's pretty unique that you actually got that there for us to talk about. But that Helios light is done very well for everyone. It was kind of developed for a retrofit option. And then people really seen the performance factor of it and wanted to start putting it on new towers. Which is
so
on our website.
So these are actually, this is a really cool website. The two of these side by side are really the two primary products that we work with Command Light to produce. The one on the left, those fixtures are the mini brow double stack fixtures on the outside and the mini brow single stack on the inside. Those are some of the fixtures that we've been doing for the longest duration in fire. And before fire was automotive off-road, it's actually really cool. Those fixtures are the same fixtures that are used on one of the Back to the Moon missions or the Lunar Rover project with NASA. If you Google this thing, you can see those same fixtures. The earlier iteration, they were called the X-Mitter, originally Vision X part, now we're all one team. But the same core tech that was used for this NASA project is on those light fixtures, which is kind of unique. And people ask me all the time, we talk about the symmetry in optics. Why does it make sense to have symmetrical versus asymmetrical, and what's the whole deal? So with those fixtures, we talk about, we're experts in the payload, in the light fixture, not in the elevator. So you tell me how you want to pick it up, we'll figure out how to make the light come off the fixture correctly in that application. And so a while ago, I can't remember who I was working with, but someone out there asked me, hey, can you put your mini brow lights up and down? So we were thinking through the application, and realistically, those optics, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is the Helios. It doesn't matter which way it's articulated. The light is going to project in that same conical pattern. So unless you're within like 2 or 3 feet of light tower, as it develops out, you'll actually end up with a traditional looking beam pattern, even though it's only on those two very skinny vertical fixtures. So that's a very unique application that was kind of fun to be a part of when we did some of that development and came up with that unique way to use the Firetech fixtures.
Just like you was mentioned there with being slim, we're seeing so many trends in the fire service. We're wanting to get more light on target, but more so is we work directly with all OEMs and we listen to their feedback on what we're seeing as trends. And historically, we're seeing trucks get shorter and wanting to reduce overall height. And that only needs 13 inches of mounting space. So you can use any of the available real estate that's already there on your truck without adding to the overall height or the overall length in a drastic way. And you still get the performance of that light tower and the same reliability of your light heads in that condensed package.
So I actually have never lit one up next to, I've never had two on the same truck. Do you have a truck that's got both the slim and a traditional light tower and can I mean, do you have any feedback? Do they look the same? I mean, what's your experience?
So our experience has been that, you know, the way that you've got that pattern, you hit on it briefly there, but the way you've got it set up in that light tower is very unique in the fact of the spot flood combination. You can actually turn those individual light heads off and show that beam pattern the way that you're talking about there, with the lighting of the width and the lighting of the depth of the spot there, and how that works together in your optics. You're not seeing a major reduction. The only sacrifice you have to make with a slim that you wouldn't be able to get with that night Helios there to the right is the ability to do that backlighting based on the way that the bars are mounted to the tower.
That's
So
an interesting point.
backlighting is an option. It's not a standard feature. If that's something that you're not interested in, you're trying to condense your package down, that slim is a perfect option for you.
Maybe that's an opportunity for some development, huh?
That would be.
I'll have to get my thinking cap on. That'd be cool. Well, so that's a good segue into the Helios fixture. Have you seen the video that Chris McClune did with the Helios fixture and the whole story?
You know, I have, and while you're actually talking about that, I will actually attempt to pull it up and locate it for us.
You did a good job kind of explaining some of the tech, and with our light fixtures, you know, one of the things that when we developed the fixture, it was designed obviously to be a light tower fixture for a light tower application. We sat down with the Command Light team to develop how can this thing be, you know, the ultimate of both budget friendly as well as performance oriented, but it was never designed to be a Ferrari. The Helios fixture was designed to be a workhorse that goes up every time you turn it on. That thing has to come on. It has to produce light where it matters. It has to be the right optic pattern. It has to be cost effective, because if it's not, no one's going to put it, I mean, not nobody, but it's just more difficult to install a more expensive solution. So we really kind of came up with, how do we not sacrifice in quality in order to get the cost where we want it? So all of that kind of boils down to, we use some existing tech that exists in our other markets, in mining and industrial, where we can share the optics and the circuit board with parts that we build in super high volumes. And then we actually, and I don't even know if you know this yet, but we actually changed. Now we're using a super high pressure die cast, so we can assemble the entire system in our facility. We'll do all the burn-in testing, all the underwater testing, everything, so that it's a complete assembly ready to ship. But we're leveraging some of that super high volume manufacturing we do in other markets, so that we can drive the cost of this thing down. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to buy the fixture, just this cheap light. It's actually a super high performance light that we're leveraging volume to make price point competitive, and doing some really unique things with the optics and drivers that ultimately I think really are going to produce a unique fixture for customers. Originally it was designed for retrofits, but now, you know, from what I was hearing from Chris and from you guys, it seems like it's something that would work well, and even in new applications. I mean, sweet.
Well, you're actually seeing a 33% cost reduction, and because you make mention of that, I will bring this up as well, Sam.
Sure.
In fact, we do have a Quartz to LED upgrade, and while I'm pulling that up, you want to take just a moment to speak on Quartz versus LED and what people actually see there?
Yeah, so the big difference between a Quartz fixture and an LED fixture, and I can speak in general about the tech. I mean, these are three different light manufacturers. All three of these companies do a great job in the space. You know, we specialize in some areas, you know, that are competitive to the Firetech brand. But when you look at just in general, LED versus Quartz Halogen, regardless of the manufacturer, regardless of the brand, the LED does not have a lamp. So there's nothing to replace if the light bulb burns out. So the biggest key is choose a light bulb or light fixture that's not going to get so hot that causes the LED to have a likelihood of failure. That's why we developed this thing, to have the circuit board maximizing the available real estate on the housing to dissipate the heat thermally. But either way, the LED versus Quartz, the LED should be more reliable. If it doesn't get too hot and if it doesn't get water inside of it, the LED should last the life of your vehicle. So when we build a fixture, everything with the Firetech brand on it is guaranteed for the life of the truck. So when we build a fixture, it's designed so that you never have to change a light bulb as long as that thing is in service. So from the practical standpoint, not from the how does it actually light the fire scene, but how much do I have to mess with it? The LED fixture is more reliable. It's also more energy efficient. And so if you think about the amount of power required to produce a certain amount of light on target, with the LED fixture, you can typically produce about the same amount of usable light on target with about 10% of the energy consumed. So if you figure you had a 1,000 watt Quartz light and you're looking at an LED equivalent, there are a variety of things that play into it, but roughly 10%. So with roughly about 100 watts, you should be able to produce somewhere in the comparable range of usable light on target. And so when you look at these fixtures, this particular fixture has a very high luminous efficacy. And so the number of lumens converted into, watts converted into usable lumens is pretty high with this thing. And so we're actually hedging that bet a little bit higher. This competes with about a 1,000 watt fixture, even though it only draws around, I think it's 75 watts, somewhere in that range. So, the biggest difference in terms of visual, if you're a firefighter, you pull up and you're just looking at the fire truck, the big difference is going to be the color temperature. So the halogen fixtures typically are a much lower color temperature. They're more amber, more yellow looking. The LED fixtures are typically higher color temperature. It's not always the case. You can actually produce very specific wavelengths with an LED, but most people like that high color temperature light output, more like daylight, more like sunshine than your traditional halogen lighting. And when you look at what are the effects of that high color temperature, in addition to just being high color temperature, it also allows you to perceive other things with more detail. They call it the color rendering index. So these LED fixtures, and this is really true with almost all the light manufacturers, is that the higher color rendering index allows you to work more effectively on small tasks. So if you were say an EMT, you're starting a line on a patient, dark complected patient, difficult to see the veins, it's kind of, bad, whatever. The high color temperature gives you better ability to discern between two different very similar colors. So that's one application in rescue mode. If you're looking at maybe like a bomb tech, if you've got this thing on a bomb squad vehicle, and you're trying to decide, I have to cut the yellow wire, and I've got yellow, orange, and orangish red side by side. You cut the wrong wire and your hand gets blown off. So it's a high stakes environment. The higher the color rendering index, which is an LED fixture, at least in the realm that we work with today, typically is going to allow you to discern between colors because they reflect more naturally, a more full spectrum reflection of that light. So you can discern between yellow, orange, and orangish red much more easily under a more high color temperature fixture than you would, say, if you were projecting very low color temperature orange light down onto the seat. It would be very difficult to tell, well, I'm not fairly sure exactly which one I'm cutting. I mean, that's, it's maybe exaggerated, but it's very true. When you look at why choose LED over halogen, the big difference is reliability. The other difference is, sure, you can put more light on target. You can actually put a lot more light on target because you can collimate the light better because the focal point is so much smaller. You can control where it goes. But the other thing is really that color temperature. And the color temperature is one that I think most firefighters immediately recognize. Even if you had a lower intensity of light, even if it wasn't quite the same volume of light, number of lumens, the color temperature allows you to see more clearly in the environment where you're working. And in environments like firefighting, first response, law enforcement, I mean, these things, it actually matters what you're doing. It's not like, oh, we're going to a birthday party. I hope these balloons are red versus yellow. If you're trying to decide where you start a line or what color a wire is, or if you're trying to discern what color is the smoke coming off of a building, it helps to be able to see clearly into that environment. And in the hazardous materials world, is it yellow off-gassing or is it steam? I mean, that's a big difference between what's in the cloud. And so it's really, there's a lot more to it than just that reliability. But most people buy it because it's more reliable and it's more efficient. So there's a lot of really clear advantages. And with some of this new tech, I mean, the whole reason that this LED fixture was designed to be cost effective was because it's difficult to justify, am I going to spend $10,000 more? I mean, I don't actually know what it costs, but say it's $10,000 more to put an LED tower up in the air than a traditional halogen tower, when if you look on paper, they both make the same number of lumens. I think there's a legitimate argument to be made that the cost actually does, over the life of the vehicle, justify, because the likelihood that you'll have better dexterity, better ability to work under it, less maintenance and headache. Fire trucks are put in service for 20 years. I mean, there's a fire truck at my station. It's an 80s model fire truck. So when they're in service that long, maintenance and that sort of thing actually does make a big difference. And so, I don't know. That's my answer there.
Well, no, Sam, you hit on several things I really want to just drive home that you kind of glossed over briefly, but it's the fact that the Helios light fixture produces 14,000 lumens of light at 33% cost reduction when you're doing an upgrade. So that means you can foreseeably take a refurb truck if you're buying a used model fire truck and you're maybe not extending out your budget the entire max that you would be if you were buying a new truck. And it has a used light tower on it with old quartz halogen bulbs on it. You can do an upgrade to that, the entire scene light package, and you can get the same reliability that people have come to expect of your brand and the same reliability that they've expected from Command Light in this new LED platform in a package that they can actually do in-house. We give a range on our website, a list price range on our website, just for reference points if people are trying to put it in their budget. Yeah. But say it's going to cost this much is not a cut and dry it's not simple math. You got several things that we need to know. So if you call us and you'll give us the model and the serial number, we can look that light tower up and see exactly which light tower you've got, so we can make sure we get you quotes on the right parts. But there's a few other lights that I want you to hit on that we offer from you guys, and make mention that we do have a catalog devoted straight to your product brand.
So we manufacture a whole range of light fixtures, whether it's the fixtures that are used on the Slim, those are the mini brow double stack and single stack fixtures, or it's the Helios, or it's our SL15 is another part that I've seen on some of the big, what do you call your big tower? The CL, the KL?
CL series.
The CL. So, I mean, there's a whole range of fixtures that we produce that Command Light uses. AC, DC, whatever your intensity level is. If you want the brightest thing ever made, we produce some light fixtures that, I mean, are just astoundingly bright. If you want super cost effective, naturally the Helios fixture, cost effective. We really have everything in that range. And everything we manufacture, if it's got a Firetech badge on it, is guaranteed for the life of the truck. And so when you look at laying out a tower, for years, I remember I got into the industry and it was like, when I was riding around in a pickup truck, I paid $1,000 for selling lights, and I'd tell people, we make lights, not fire trucks, so don't laugh at my truck. Well, the business has grown a lot since we first got into the industry. And when I first got into the industry, I remember meeting y'all's team and just saying like, hey, what's it going to take to put our lights on your towers? And I think everyone kind of laughed or said, I don't know, there's a lot of other manufacturers that have been doing this a long time. It's going to take you a while to prove yourself. And so we spent, literally 10 years breaking down doors and meeting with people and developing tech and keeping our warranty rate extremely low. Not that things don't happen. You might be the first customer to have all 6 of them burn out, but the likelihood of failure is extremely low, that we've really developed that market, maybe not acceptance or appreciation, whatever the word is, to where the market's really demanding a Firetech product. And so this year, I think, is the first time we've really had a catalog devoted to Firetech products that you can install on y'all's towers. I was really excited to see that thing kind of get morphed and put together. And we get asked from customers all the time, hey, I'm buying XYZ fire truck. I want a whole Firetech package. And we try, and honestly, it's very difficult to stay extremely brand neutral when it comes to the payload elevators. It's also difficult to stay extremely brand neutral to the fire truck brands. I mean, we love each of the brands as much as we love the other brands. What we really love is the Firetech brand. And we love our customers that are using it. And so as we've developed this tech, we've developed this catalog, now what we're able to do is a customer that says, I want to put Firetech lights on my fire truck. There's nowhere on the fire truck they can't choose a Firetech light, which includes a Command Light tower, which includes all the different options we have, from the Slim fixtures all the way up to the Helios, to the SL15. I mean, there's really kind of now that cohesive environment where you can say, yes, I want it. And I'm sure they can reach out to you guys down in the catalog. I know that catalog will be on our website. All of the rest of the Firetech products will also be on our website. And really, I think y'all's demo trucks, the one in the picture behind you, has the Slim on it. So I know our demo trucks have some of them, and we're building a new demo truck right now, which I'm pretty excited about. But the one demo truck will have Helios fixtures on it. The other one will have the Slim on it. We've got a whole range of lighting products for anywhere on the fire truck, from compartment undercarriage all the way up to light towers. And so definitely we're excited to be working together on this stuff.
So Sam, like say, I really, you just hit home on the one message I want to drive home to everyone that's going to watch this video, is the fact that we do work together in every single one of our series, all the way down to C lights, our shadows, our SL series, our KL series. You can come over into our your SLX15 you were talking about, into our CL series. Every light tower has HiViz available, light fixtures on it, and we work hand in hand. It's not just, you don't work with one manufacturer. You're very much similar to the way we work with all OEMs, as you work with everyone.
Yeah, and it's actually, it's interesting from the light manufacturer's perspective. People ask all the time, what's the best one? And I'm like, guys, call the reps, have them come out, bring the demo truck out, set it up. I mean, like, you guys have a whole network of these trucks all around the country that have a variety. I mean, even light fixtures. Honestly, if you want a fixture that we don't make to do a job, but someone else makes it, we'll be the first to tell you, hey, this is the right part. We do that all the time in some areas of lighting where we don't make a product. And so I think it's like, when you look at from a customer's perspective, how do I buy a scene lighting system? I mean, just call someone like yourself, bring the truck out, set it up, bring all the firemen out, light up whichever brand, Firetech brand or otherwise, see what you think of it. And if you choose a Firetech product, I mean, that's fantastic. And if you don't, we're still going to come by and see you next time we're at a show together. And it's still hopefully going to help you do your job after dark. And so I think that in anything that we're doing, we're making sure that the tech we build is the best tech we can build every time we build it, and that it gives the customer the ultimate experience when they depend on it to save someone's life. And it's really the customer's role and customer's job to decide, is the Firetech brand the right part for my application? And if it is, sign me up. And if it's not, send you down the road. It's really pretty much that simple.
Really appreciate you, Sam, taking time to sit down with me today and go through your product and how that works with us.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Just really appreciate the opportunity to sit here and chat with you.
Well, Sam, you have a great day, and we'll talk to you very soon, okay?
Cheers. You too. See you later.
See you later.